I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Tuesday, February the 2nd for the Board of Review and Equalization and some budget presentations. And do we have any items from the public? No public, okay. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So.
And second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. And like sign opposed? Motion passes. The Honorable Larry Hess, session number 2. Can you brief us and let us know what's going on?
How you doing?
Good.
We don't have anybody scheduled.
Okay.
For hearings, see when you guys can hear everybody.
So we're,
So we don't have any changes actually to get to. We had changed some, like a couple things like address changes. We don't easily get to it. We just how you choose. So we don't have anything right now. Unless somebody shows up afternoon, give us a call or whatever. But, we've taken care of, let's say, John and Fraser. We've got a lot of calls with questions about assessments, and we've gone over everything with them, and everybody's been satisfied.
okay. I'm presiding over the meeting because our president is spending time with his grandson who had surgery yesterday. So I don't know if you want to know that or not, but I'll let that out. So little Jack is recuperating well. So yeah.
All right, so if we get anybody or whatever, give us a holler.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we're already ahead of schedule. We have Tim Zaya with Community Corrections Director for budget presentation 21-22.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Good. How are you?
Afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon. Anybody feels like giving themselves a headache? Just FYI, I turned off the copy of our treatment schedule and our transportation schedule, just for you to get a little snapshot of kind of what we do on a daily basis down there.
So this is this week's schedule or last week?
The first page that you're looking at, these are all the groups, Monday through Saturday, that Day Report Center staff facilitate. The second page is the Monday through Friday schedule that Mountain View Behavioral Health staff facilitate. The third page is the third and fourth and fifth and sixth page is most of our transportation schedule. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about any of that stuff. It's kind of confusing, but I just thought I'd provide it just for your information.
We haul a lot of people around.
We do. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't have their own method of transportation. It's about it really as much of a pain in the rear as it is. It's really valuable that a lot of people did not make it to treatment drug screening. We didn't provide some help there. Okay, I'm going to start with Day Report Center. The Day Report Center this year's been a little different with the COVID complications that we've had, but we're still staying very active. The first few numbers I'm going to provide to you are calendar year 2020 numbers. January 1st to December 31st. We served a total of 562 participants. There are currently as of a week ago or so, there are 216 active participants. We actually decreased in active participant roster following holidays, which actually was I wasn't too unhappy about that. We were on a trajectory to kind of become capacity pretty quickly, but that decreased some with the holidays. So we're actually 218 as of this morning.
What's the capacity, projected capacity of the new building?
The new building, pushing 400.
Really?
Wow.
We completed a total of 51 people in calendar year 2020. We now have 190 people who have successfully completed the program, which is a minimum of 12 months participation and compliance and so on and so forth. Our recidivism rate as of October 2020 was 18%. Darn good.
Now, how do you measure that?
People who have been arrested after they've completed the program. We completed 9,598 drug screens between, now I'm going to give you some numbers from the fiscal year, July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Last fiscal year, that is 9,598 drug screens. And that's just Day Report Center. That does not include DHHR and confinement. About another 3,000 represented there. This is just people who referred to Day Report Center for treatment. 9,598 drug screens. 1,335 of those specimens were positive for a substance, which is 13.91%. And 8,233 were negative, which is 85.78%. There were about 30 that were diluted. The top three substances that people are testing positive for, THC is number one, 7%. Suboxone is number two, which is 4.3%. Fentanyl is number three at 3.9%. So Suboxone is a drug that is prescribed for the treatment of substance use disorder, but it's also way overprescribed now, so it's readily available in the streets. It has high street value, and people are regularly selling it. It's the number one drug that they smuggle into ERJ. It's kind of taken the place of oxycodone. Oxycodone was way overprescribed. It was readily available on the streets. It had high street value. Now they treat substance use disorder with this addictive medication, and many people abuse it. It has high street value. It's safer than heroin. People
But harder to get off.
What's that?
But harder to get off, from what I hear.
Very difficult to get off of. No, methadone's a different medication altogether, and that's a nasty drug too.
Is that what they give though to get off the drugs too?
Yes, yep, there are people that go to the Martinsburg Institute over by the Gold there. That's been there for some time now. And, that's the only place locally that people can go get
Yeah, I hear
medication.
they're lined up in the mornings.
What's that?
I hear they're lined up in the mornings.
We have very few program participants who are prescribed methadone. Try to keep them away from that drug. There's a number of people who test with us for DHHR that are on methadone. So our treatment schedule runs Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and I've attached those group schedules for you. So our budget for fiscal year 2021 was approved last year at 1.3 million. So our HIDA funding, 275,000, community corrections grant is at 200,000. Our HIDA discretionary funding, which we were awarded, is 124,800. Our adult drug court grant was 115,000, and our JRI grant, 103,500, for a total of $818,300. The additional revenue sources that we've set up, DHHR drug screening, our adult drug court, our adult drug court, I can't think of the name of it,
Now you're making me try to sing.
oh my God, our MOU we have with the adult
Oh,
drug
okay.
court. Our parole per diem, the Martinsburg Initiative provides some funding to us for a peer recovery coach. Scram monitoring that we provide by court order, that DHHR pays for, our Logisticare contract, and our one-time drug screens that the judges send folks over for. Those revenues total $431,388 for a total of $1,249,688.45. So you subtract that from our approved budget from last year, it cost the council approximately $63,353 to run this operation. It's pretty darn good.
I think that's important to note, and Tim and I talked about this. If you remember, this council authorized the start of your own day report center in August of 2016. And you can see what our fiscal year allocation was for 16-17, it was $242,000. That was general fund money that is not being offset by grants. So, and we had just a handful of participants. So when you take the number of participants and you divide it by the general fund allocation, you can see the investment was quite a bit. Now we have over 200 participants, and the general fund allocation is less than $100,000. Not counting what I'm sure Tim's going to mention we've saved in the
Regional jails.
Based on our current numbers, if these folks were incarcerated, looking at $3.5 million a year.
Additional,
Yes.
what the
In addition to whatever it costs.
cost now.
Yes.
So our jail bill would be 6 million,
Yes, be over 6.
over 6 million.
Now, have you compared these numbers to any other counties? See, what they're doing versus what we're doing?
We crush everyone. No, to answer your question, I have not. I bet you $1 though. Crush everyone.
Well, I was assuming we did. I hoped we did. I didn't know if we did.
We have the largest day report center in the state. I'll tell you that.
When the council started this year, intent was never to break even. But Tim's going to talk a little bit more about what could be looming in the future.
Yeah.
We
So-
could be self-supporting. the David Ford Center could be subsidized.
You said looming,
When
not
we
gloomy.
started, it actually wasn't the most
You said
successful one
looming.
at the time, the one in Charleston.
Yes. They declined. I don't think they even received the same sort of support that they did a few years ago. There's some leadership changes.
Right.
There's quite a few of our participants who are enrolled in services with Mountain View Behavioral Health. All our participants that have Medicaid, we enroll them with services with them, and they bill Medicaid for all the services provided, treatment and group treatment and individual treatment. My long-term goal here, a couple years down the road, is to have a licensed provider on our staff who's under whose license we actually will end up billing insurance for those services. And if we, I'm going to begin the process probably a year from now of becoming a licensed behavioral health center. The David Ford Center becoming our own licensed behavioral health center, just like Mountain View Behavioral Health, Shenandoah Community Services, East Ridge. They're all licensed behavioral health centers. As long as there's one provider on staff to service as the director, that licensed provider can, under their license, we bill insurance. We can have 4 or 5 master's level clinicians who are not licensed who work under that person's license, to facilitate all the treatment and bill insurance. So if that happens, I don't have numbers to share with you today, but this won't cost the county anything. We'll actually bring money back to the county for these services, which will offset the cost of the home confinement program, community service program, recovery resource center. That's a long-term goal, though. Down the road a little bit. But right now, we're going to continue as we are.
But it sounds like it's very attainable.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me.
Yep. I've already had preliminary conversations with Erin Mills, who's the therapist that we hired. Provide discretionary funding, and she's in the process of obtaining licensure. And when she does, she's on board to do this.
Good.
And there's a variety of things that we can bill insurance for: case management, peer recovery coaching, in addition to the individual therapy. So I'm going to tell you about the new grant program that we're looking at here in a minute, but I'm requesting increases in several line items for the David Ford Center this year. The largest increases in the professional services line. This is primarily due to the discretionary funding that we receive from HIDA pays not only for the full-time therapist, but also the part-time therapist that we pay as a contractor. And I use our professional services line to pay her. So that's primarily why there's an increase in that line. 230 is contracted services. Our drug screening alone costs close to $50,000 a year just for the supplies. And that doesn't include lab fees and so on and so forth. That's the biggest increase there is as our capacity increases, so does our cost for drugs. I'm also requesting, based on my projections, we're going to need new staff moving into the next fiscal year. So I'm requesting a case manager, a drug screening technician, and a peer recovery coach to accommodate the growth. Any questions about anything I've submitted for the David Ford Center budget request?
What will the capacity be, if you have the 3 new positions? Where will that put you at capacity?
310 to 330.
And then the spreadsheet that you have, the spreadsheet that I provide, that has all the current salaries, all the current positions. It does not include the 3 additional personnel requests, but that's actual. So you'll see that the spreadsheet that I provide is a little bit different than the departmental budget request only because the department heads can't go in and adjust the personnel. I do that, so I can give you a true snapshot of what the request is for next year.
Juvenile services are juveniles who are under legal supervision in Berkeley County are way underserved. The juvenile drug court does exist. It's very small, about 4 people that are in it. There's been approximately 160 cases, active cases in 2020. So its population is far underserved. HIDA is aware of that. For the last several weeks, we've been meeting regularly with Dr. Picard, who's my rep at HIDA, and Lauren Cummings, who's the director of the Northern Shenandoah Valley Substance Abuse Coalition. HIDA is pursuing some SAMHSA funding that they want to distribute evenly between Northern Shenandoah Valley and Berkeley County. They feel strongly that they're going to be awarded funding. I think they will. If awarded, it will provide Berkeley County $162,000 a year for 5 years. And the plan is for us to hire a therapist who's dedicated to providing services to the juveniles and basically a case manager. There's a title that they gave to it. I'm not remembering the name of it. It's different. But basically a case manager, as well as some funding to purchase some incentives for the parents to become involved and to be a part of their child's treatment. Also, to provide some funding to pay as a contractor a youth peer recovery coach, someone who's actually a teenager who's been through the court system and is doing well and is in recovery, be a part of working with the kids. I'm going to be traveling to Leesburg on Friday, actually, for us to finalize to put together the final draft of the application. And if awarded, we're going to be ready to. I'm going to be coming before you all. I've talked with Alan a little bit about this. If we're awarded funding, I'm going to be coming and requesting positions for this purpose, and it's pretty important in my opinion. We can intervene in the lives of these kids now. We may save them a whole lot of misery down the road. So we'll see. I think there's a good chance that we're going to be awarded the funds. We should know here in a couple months.
In the subcommittee as well.
Yes. The subcommittee has given Berkeley Day Report Center their permission to move forward and to provide services in the Day Report Center.
And if you'll recall, back in 2016, July of 16, we had to go to Charleston and request recognition by the subcommittee to go to start our own Day Report Center. So they've already signed off on this program if the funding is available.
What's the age bracket for the youth peer recovery coach?
12 to 18.
So you had 160 children last year, but we're only servicing 4.
Yeah, I can't give you the exact reason why, but the juvenile drug court growing. But kids with active juvenile cases, there's about 160. And
Wasn't there a movement at one point to do away with the juvenile drug court? I mean, in the state Supreme Court, wasn't there a movement at one point to do away with it? I mean, we lost our representatives, and wasn't Dave Greenberg, he was the one.
So juvenile drug court was running in Jefferson County for a number of years. Judge Greenberg ran it, and then he stopped. And then it wasn't being run at all. Judge Cohey started it again a year ago, maybe a year and some change. And I believe now Judge McLaughlin's doing one in Jefferson County. But between both counties, I think there's 4, about a month, 4 kids. I think there's been as many as 6 at one time. But it's kind of, community corrections programs need to be handling the treatment for juvenile drug court, in my opinion. When local providers who are service the public are involved. I mean, corrections is a very different animal. These aren't people who walk in off the street and say, hey, I'm here for help, I need help. These are people here who are being told, you have to go get help or else there's a consequence. And it's different, it's just different. So local providers aren't equipped, they're not trained, they're not familiar with the world of corrections. They're used to dealing with people who are willing participants, and that's just not the case here. So I'd like to become more involved with the juveniles than what we have been in the past. I mean, I've only participated in the juvenile drug treatment team and just shared some thoughts here and there in the past. But we're not. Home confinement. Should I move on? All right, home confinement program, we're currently serving 81, 19 pending cases. Since we took it over in January of 2018, we've served we've supervised 517 offenders. In 2018, we received $75,600 in payments. Jail costs would have been $808,000. In 2019, I'm sorry.
What's the term, how long are they with you?
It varies.
I know.
It can be as little as 30 days. We have someone for 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
And so they come to you and clean up, whatever, for 10 years?
You're thinking of community service. Home confinement is.
Oh, that's right.
They have
They home confinement for 10 years?
in some cases, yes.
Really? I mean, what kind of crime did they do that would get them 10 years of home confinement?
I don't know off the top of my head what that person's convicted of.
Gee, good. I've never heard of that. That's a long time to stay at home.
It's a long time to stay in jail.
Well, yeah, but it's, that's a throw. I've never heard of that.
You should, I haven't, I could do it real quick if I had my phone. Do the math on 10 years in prison versus 10 years in home confinement. It'd be a really different number.
You think?
So in 2019, we received $99,800 in payments. Jail costs would have been $1.4 million. In 2020, we've received $77,507 in payments. Jail costs would have been $1.9 million. The reason that number came down for payments is we've begun providing GPS monitoring pretty much for all, not pretty much, for all adult drug court participants. And we don't charge them for it. We received back in 2020, $119,437 from our adult drug court agreement. So we don't charge those offenders. It's difficult enough for them to be involved in the treatment that they are, let alone have the burden of paying for the suites. That's the reason that number came down. So with our home confinement budget, I believe all of the my line items from last year are the same, but we are requesting, beginning of the new fiscal year, an additional home confinement officer and a vehicle to plan for projected growth of that program.
Is that vehicle the capital outlay request?
Yes. Yes.
And our home confinement officers work 7 days a week, so, and holidays. Only because of the unannounced home visitations that they do. Tim has contacted me in the past just to let me know that, for example, 4th of July, there might be an all-out blitz on the 4th of July for home confinement officers to check on participants to make sure that they are abiding by the stipulations of their home confinement. So it's a very, very active program, and they check early in the morning, late at night, and on the weekends. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
So what do they do if they don't find the home confinement person confined at home?
Say that real fast
If
3 times.
they leave their home, they get alerted immediately. As soon as they leave, within 2 to 3 minutes, they'll get an alert to their cell phone that they've left their zone. There's a zone placed around their house, which is called an inclusion zone.
Which I assume includes a little bit outside.
Yeah, and then if they've been given permission to go to a job each day, there are various exclusion zones that are placed around places like bars, police departments, the jail, so that if anyone goes into one of those zones, they're alerted. If one of them were to be arrested, for instance, and taken to one of the police stations, they're gonna be alerted. If they're taken to ERJ, they're gonna be alerted. They're going to their house to check on them randomly to make sure there's not a cake party going on. They search their house regularly to make sure there's no firearms, alcohol, or drugs inside the house, and to make sure they're not associating with other felons.
And what if they find 6-pack?
Well, depending on the situation and depending on the number of times they've been spoken to about whatever the issue may be, if someone has alcohol, for instance, they probably send them to the day report center initially, as opposed to, they could incarcerate them. I mean, any violation of the terms and conditions listed West Virginia State Code can result in incarceration. But anything involving alcohol or drugs, send them to the day report center for treatment and see if they engage there. I mean, if someone's leaving their house when they're not supposed to, pretty restrictive, that kind of thing. But it depends. There's a lot of different things that people are doing, and sometimes they need a harsh talking to, they need some formal
Structure.
consequences issued. Worst case scenario, they're taken into custody and taken to ERJ. Any other questions about home confinement?
Typical case like the ones home confinement officers.
20. We'd like it not to exceed 20. If it starts going above that, they can't provide the level of supervision that I would like to be able to provide. It's important to me that we can always report to the judges that the terms and conditions are being enforced, and their whereabouts are being monitored regularly. 20's a max.
Do you get any resistance from judges, magistrates with the home confinement?
Resistance regarding,
Use of it?
you mean if people are given the opportunity to be sentenced to home confinement?
Yeah.
Oh no, they'd rather be on home confinement.
Not the person, but the judges or whoever sentences them to home confinement.
Oh, no.
Everybody's playing.
Everybody's on board. Okay.
We used to have a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
I don't, so that's, we get referrals from all the magistrates.
No, I mean, before we took it over,
Oh,
there was a lot of resistance to parole, probation, to put people in the program because it wasn't as successful. There wasn't consequences. The tracking was being done the way it should be.
yeah, I think a lot of it kind of changed that. Recovery Resource Center. In calendar year 2020, we've got 97 people into treatment, 35 in the detox, 52 in inpatient treatment, and 18 in the medically assisted treatment program. These are people that walking off the street and say, hey, I need help. There's been 1,433 phone consultations done. There's been 96 Narcan trainings provided. They're facilitating 8 recovery meetings a week for attendance in excess of 3,000 people. So they stay busy in the Recovery Resource Center. There's a couple of grant programs that are being run through the RRC. One of them is the JOTIP program, Juvenile Opioid Treatment Intervention and Prevention Program. This is the program that the staff were to go into schools to facilitate the Too Good for Drugs curriculum, identify high-risk kids, and provide services to them and their families. COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into all that, but starting Thursday, February 4th, They are gonna be going into Martinsburg High School, to begin the work that we tried to start a year ago. So they're actually gonna be in the school. There's a meeting being held on Friday this week regarding going to Hedgesville, so things are slowly starting to change, and hopefully by next school year, it's just gonna be back to normal again. They're gonna be in there doing what we had originally set out to do.
Now, when you go to the schools, do you do it in auditorium form, or is it through the counselors, or is it
In the health class.
health classes? Okay.
Yep.
And this is 100% grant funded. So these folks are on our payroll, on your payroll, but we do get reimbursement from the grant for all of their compensation benefits as well as some of their supplies.
Okay.
That grant also provided $125,000 worth of funding for all the electronic equipment at the new data report center, which is pretty significant. The quick response team is a grant fund program. This was a grant awarded to the health department. There you go. The health department is the fiscal agent of the grant. We hired the staff for the quick response team, case manager, and 2 peer recovery coaches. They started knocking on doors. They became employees on October 5th. They started knocking on doors October 14th after some training. As of last week, 2 weeks ago, they knocked on 108 doors. They engaged successfully with 70 people out of those 108 doors they knocked on. 51 of them with the overdose survivor themselves, 19 with family members. There have been 17 of those overdose survivors who actually successfully entered a detox or inpatient treatment program, which is 24.3% of all engagements. And that's a phenomenal number in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Bill, but I expected some good results. I didn't think they'd be quite that good.
That tells me that the people are really wanting to help but didn't know how to get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that, I mean, especially on the tail end of an overdose, they know they almost died. They're miserable. All heroin addicts are. They're miserable. They desperately want help. They don't know how to get it. So these people are showing up at the right time and saying, we're here to help. And 1 out of 5 of them is following through.
Remarkable.
So you said, you gotta run your numbers by me again, because you said 108 and 17 or so went into a program.
108 doors were knocked on.
Oh, okay.
70, they actually engaged with 70 people.
Okay.
So out of those 70 people, 17, that's how I did that math.
I got you.
If you do
I get
the 108, that number's a little bit different.
Now,
I'm
they
talking
knocked on 108 doors, and they got 70 responses, 70 people.
70 people answered the door,
Answered
and
the
they were
door.
able to talk to them.
All right, what about the other 30? That people,
They don't, nobody answers the door.
do they try multiple
They
times?
do. Over a couple week period, they'll go back to 3-4 different times of the day,
Yeah.
and they'll knock, and either people are there and not answering, or they're just not able to find them. Not able to catch them at the time when they're there.
Tim, is the QRT still operating just outside of the corporate city limits? Wasn't there some difficulty getting?
Yes, I've had some conversations with Chief Hummingbird trying get information from the city the way that we're getting information from the county, and that hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it will. Hasn't happened yet.
So those numbers that you see are the cases that were provided to the QRT by the ambulance authority,
Yes.
not the city of Martinsburg.
Of course not.
Yeah, Chad Weinbrenner is very supportive of it. He actually had his one of his staff members set up a report that comes from the database that they use specifically for this purpose. So our staff can actually that report to each day, and they get data and the address, name of the person, some basic information about what took place, whether or not Narcan was used, so on and so forth. Good information.
Not to jump around, but did you give us the success rate on the home confinement? I don't remember hearing that.
I did not. You mean people who complete their sentence?
Yeah, it's people who've been completed as opposed to ones that have been sent back.
No, but I can get you that number.
Okay, I'm just curious, I mean, that'll definitely lend to how successful that program is, right?
Yes. Any other questions about Recovery Resource Center?
And when you look at the increase, no change in operating requests.
No.
When you look at the substantial increase, in the budget, it's because of the grant funded positions that the council has authorized, but they are grant funded positions.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. So, good afternoon.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Berkeley Morgan Health Department, Bill Kearns. Afternoon.
Have you trouble getting here? Is the snow all taken care of for you?
Wonderful,
Good.
wonderful. I was out yesterday morning, and staff working from home yesterday, and the parking lot crew was out there cleaning the parking lot. He's like, well, I wanted to make sure we got out here before everybody got here, and I'm like, well, you're looking at it, so, but they did a good job. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and present. Yeah, I think back this time last year, we knew there was a virus out there, but we didn't know what the impact was going to be. And a year later, oh my, what we've been through with, and what we've done in a year period, and where we still have to go. We went from realizing there was a virus to West Virginia and Berkeley County not being a site that, or a county, an area that has a potential, had a positive case, to lots of positive cases still continuing, sometimes 1,000 or more a week that were being identified as positive cases for COVID. Handling that with a very few complement of staff that we had on hand. And we continue, we try to track as many of the cases that we can, but right now we've converted from being an agency that's doing case investigations and contact tracing to an agency that's vaccinating. And we've had a lot of staff had to be added, temporary staff that covered through grants that we've received, through a lot of help of the county, being able to help in the initial times of being billing for the CARES grant monies. We was assisted by Tracy in being able to get those grants administered. We have not used a penny local money to support the efforts as of yet, which is ought to be said because of the grants that we've received and the help that we've received across all the agencies in Berkeley County. It's just so, I just finished a Zoom call a while ago because we do a weekly Zoom call with our planning partners for that week's clinics, and we have them scheduled for this week and next. It's so heartwarming to see all the faces on there from the different agencies, whether it's emergency management, the hospital, law enforcement, Shepherd University. The list goes on and on of people that have come to the plate to help in getting people vaccinated in this county. And we don't really know, we don't get a lot of advance warning of exactly how much vaccine we're going to get each week. Usually it's between around 600, 620, depending on what vaccine we get. We may get more doses than what they ship us out of it because you can get us some additional doses out of Pfizer. But we're vaccinating people with a vaccine that gets a 95% effectiveness after 2 doses. And but it's not without our community partners that we would be able to do this. Our major vaccination site is, you know, and y'all may have been out to it, is the Berkeley 2000 Recreation Center. I'm so thankful for Alan and the board on their agency that they provided their building to us. We do provide them a small amount of money to be able to compensate because they've had such a tremendous loss in their revenues. But even before they knew they were gonna get penny one from the health department, they said, use our building. We have 3 gymnasiums that we set up as a vaccination area, as well as their huge parking lot. So when you come in there, you're gonna be greeted from faith-based people and our volunteer coordinator and myself. Leave myself out, that's not always the best of greeting, but anyway, you're gonna come in and then you're gonna go right to a registration area. It's very, set up very well. You're gonna go from there by another guide who will take you over to the vaccination area, which is staffed with nurses, scribes throughout our tri-county area. And then you're going to go to a holding area that's monitored. You're monitored for 15 minutes before you're released. It is a very fine oiled machine that we have. We've practiced this since 2001. We practiced this during H1N1, but oh my, we don't know what this pandemic has taught us. Lots of new things. It's brought relationships to the table that we never thought we would have. And I'm so glad and proud of my staff and all the community partners that it's just overwhelming.
West Virginia's #1 in the nation.
We accept that very proudly.
That's exactly right. It's nice to be #1 in the nation. for
Absolutely.
something good for
Amen,
change.
brother. In speaking, I don't want to move off of the rec center, but Alan reached out to community partners and say, hey, these people are coming to vaccinate. Can we feed them? Community partners reached out. Churches reached out. They're bringing food. They're bringing snacks. They're bringing drinks. And so every day that we're vaccinating there, our staff know that they're going to be fed. Health department could not do that. We could not reach out and ask people because we permit many of them. So we could not solicit donations from them, but Parks and Rec did a tremendous job on doing that for us. So each and every day.
How are are you getting people in for the second dose?
We are. Actually, I was just getting to that. This week, we have 3 fully staffed clinics that's scheduled. Thursday and Friday are booster clinics from people that the 1 week that we, the first week was Moderna that we used. It has a 4-week vaccination return period. The next week was a Pfizer, and that has a 3-week. So we have Thursday and Friday scheduled for those. And then Saturday, we're doing an all-day clinic for prime doses or the initial doses, people that's on our wait list. We set forth to set out a method for people to be able to sign up for clinics by going on a simple link to be able to sign up. In no time, we had close to 10,000 people that have signed up on that link. And at that time, it was Berkeley, Morgan, and Jefferson because they were mandating that we do a regional approach. So we were doing that. So we're still working off that list, but the state has developed a new website that you can go onto and register. All the names that we have not actually been able to administer to will be rolled up to that new program, and then they'll each week send us out a list of people that are going to be scheduled for those clinics. So we're continuing to move on with this. This is a marathon that we're within. So every week we are doing booster clinics and we're doing prime vaccination clinics, and we have to remember we are a combined board of health. So what we're doing in Berkeley County, my staff are also doing in Morgan County. Some of us are trying to stretch ourselves between the 2 clinics. It's really hard. So I know this coming week, Saturday, we're going to be doing a clinic in Morgan County and one in Berkeley County. And these are led by your health department staff. You're all staff. And so we're stretching as thin as we can, but looking for those community partners, we wouldn't be able to do that. We would not be able to run 9 to 10 vaccination stations at the same time with only having 3 public health nurses. So, and it's not because we don't have the funds to be able to hire those. It's hard to get nurses hired anyway with our salary structure that we have with the Division of Personnel, but it's even harder to hire a nurse during a pandemic. People aren't jumping into, they want to help volunteer some at their leisure, but they don't want to necessarily work in the health department during a pandemic. One of the things we're looking at for next year is we have hired an additional sanitarian on board. Our county is continuing to grow. So we have had to hire, we had some openings, we replaced those +1. So what we're looking for is to try to find sustainable funds to keep that sanitarium in place. So we will have at the end 6 fully trained sanitarians to be able to handle our county. Right now, our sanitarians not only working as sanitarians as much as possible, but they're also working as epidemiologists. They're also working as traffic control during our clinics and administration but we need to have more staff. So we are looking, so that's the reason I had asked for some additional funds for next year from the county to bring it up to 118,000 from the current, I believe, 92.5 to partially fund that sanitarium. I'm also going to be asking for additional funds from the city of Martinsburg, as well as funds from the Morgan County Commission, because these people can work in both counties without being a combined board of health, so they got to have skin in the game as well. And
Is there, the fee structure, that changed any?
that has, we just found out by mistake a couple months ago that the state did change the fee structure for permit fees. So that's going to be on our next board agenda to discuss, and certainly that will help.
Was it a significant change? Or?
It wouldn't be more than 25%. I have to look at each individual one, because at any given time, even when they had their most recent, and it's a number of years ago, changes for the fee structure, you could not increase your fees more than 25% a year, even if it took it up to that max that they would allow. But we did kind of find out by mistake that had changed, because we were not informed from the state level that those fee structures had been changed. So we know now many of those will be effective as of July of 2021. So we'll be looking at that and putting that out for public comment. We write lots of grants. We have been utilizing a lot of these grants for COVID-related activities and staffing time. I have a 2-year grant for COVID, and I have at the end of the last quarter, which was in December, for personnel, I utilized every bit of $20,000 of that 2-year grant for personnel. So we're going to be doing some reorganization and also asking for additional funds from the state as well as CARES monies to continue us through this pandemic. So those are one-time funds, and we don't necessarily need to look at those for long term. But I do have plans. As you look at our accounts, and you can see, well, the health department does have a good bit of extra revenue sitting in their bank account. That extra revenue has been earmarked for an expansion for the health department. We write grants, and we're able to get administration costs off those grants, and every bit of that I stash back. The clear sign is when we got our new building purchased by the county, I was able to provide $500,000 for that. And then we're looking at providing $750,000 in seed money to be able to expand our building now, because we're seeing that it is very small for our needs. Those are money that's coming right directly back to the county. So when we get grants, those extra dollars are coming back. So, but those are one-time dollars. I'm looking for some additional dollars, as I said, with the sanitariums, to be able to do sustainable year after year. Those extra revenue dollars we have on hand will come back to the county by the purchase of the building or expansion of the building. We have seen during this time when we were doing some of the clinics in the very onset in our building, our lobby was quite small to be able to accommodate what we needed. I was only able to allow, with social distancing, only allow 8 people in my lobby at one time. And then we had about that many in our conference room. So we would bring them in there, get them signed in, then we bring them over to the lobby where they could get brought into the clinics. But then they'd have to come back and wait 15 minutes. So our building is very undersized for our needs as we continue to grow. I am looking for our county to continue to growing, and I'm looking for the health department to be able to meet the needs, not only now, but in the future. We're also asking our legislators to restore our funding back to the health department all across the state that was taken away when we lost our 25% reduction for. We did receive about 12.5% of that back, we're asking this year for that remaining 12.5% to be restored, so we can add additional staff on hand to be able to not only just handle our pandemic right now, but handle the next emergency that comes along. We continue to do what we can as far as our normal public health core duties, but as I mentioned, currently all of our staff are pretty much hands-on. Even our epidemiologist works in doing traffic control and so forth as his schedule will permit. But we're doing as much as we can right now. We are not losing sight of what's necessary for public health core duties, but we have a pandemic in our hands, so that's where we have to concentrate all of our efforts to right now. And but we're still continuing to do a very, very successful harm reduction clinic, which integrates into so many different things, as Tim mentioned earlier. We're seeing them coming in our door. They're coming for services, and we're not denying them. We're not turning them away. We're taking care of everybody that we can. We're also still handling children's immunizations. It may be scaled down some, but we're still handling them. We're still handling the complaints, and everything else you expect from your health department, we're still doing. But I know I am, as well as all of you all, we're looking forward to getting beyond this pandemic.
Funding the income you have on here for municipalities, what municipalities contribute to that?
Just the city of Martinsburg, and then we also get money from the Board of Education. But the city of Martinsburg provides us $30,000 a year.
Berkeley Springs doesn't provide
They
it?
do not.
So you,
Last
You
year,
say
we
that-
received
say that again?
$40,000 from the Morgan County Commission. Notice that some additional funds was asked for replacing with some IT services up there, for IT equipment. This year, we'll go back to the normal 30 for this coming year. But we're going to be asking for additional funds from there, probably to keep it substantial at the 40,000 mark. Morgan County Commission.
so you said that, you said the city, contribute how much?
30,000.
What's the 58 on here?
That'd be the additional Board of Education.
Okay,
I believe they're 28.5.
okay. Yeah, it just says local municipality, and Burke gets it, it doesn't go on the state.
Historically, the city of Martinsburg contributed $15,000. They had bumped it up to $20,000, with some of those dollars being earmarked for our harm reduction program. Then they increased it last year to $30,000, with those extra dollars being earmarked for harm reduction. It's a very expensive program to operate, but the outcome is well worth it.
Anything else?
Bill, I'd like to thank you and your staff. You know, from day one, you guys, you went into action and you've taken care of the public. And nobody turned around and walked away. Nobody quit. Nobody stayed home. They came to work every day to take care of the public. And I'd have to say that with your leadership, that your staff has hung in there with you, and you ought to be commended for the services that you all have provided. When you needed to change, you changed. You know, when things got shifted to a different direction, you did it about face and you took care of the problem. You know, and just the level of cooperation that has been garnered to provide this team to take care of the public. Very proud of that. So thank you for what you're doing, and you still got a lot of work ahead of you. And but please know that you have the support of Berkeley County.
Thank you. And you're right. The staff stepped up at the very onset of this pandemic. They began doing contact tracing, sometimes working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, still are, and sometimes 7 days a week. Not everyone said they complained. Yeah, the overtime's great on a paycheck, but they've sacrificed their own time, their family time, because they love our community. And blessed to have the staff that I do. And thank you.
Also, thank you for the willingness to learn.
Yes,
Because it's been a learning experience the whole year, right?
it continues to be. We improved a little bit each and every day, whatever we're doing, we try to improve it on serving people we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. You gotta be willing to bend with the bend, you know? Thank you.
I just wish we could have all those doses of the virus or the vaccine that the other states have wasted.
Yes, I would agree. That would be nice to have. We have, not everyone wants to receive the vaccine, but I think enough people are seeing that people aren't growing, third arm, third leg, extra head. And that sense of doing the right, we'd say every dose we get in an arm is one day closer to getting rid of it.
Yeah. Well, I got to say that, you know, in my line of work that I've done, it's been nice to have an extra hand there. So if I would have grown one, I wouldn't have minded it for too much. So, but again, thank you. And
Thank you.
stay safe.
Thanks.
Okay, that concludes the Board of Health, and now we have Miss Amy Orndorff with the Senior Services. And she is a COVID survivor.
I am
So.
proud of it. So I don't have it now, I'm not infected now, but I do have goodies.
What'd I tell you?
I heard that,
We were kind of betting on it,
kind of mix it up a little bit this year, so, I'll leave this for Doug.
No, you won't.
I'll check in with him.
Okay. Well, you can leave it, but we won't.
Okay, well, hey, I did my due diligence, it's there. If you guys mind if I were just one answer.
No, go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm here looking, of course, for funds, as is everyone else this time of year. I do want to start out by saying that, you know, I know that there's been quite a transition, and we will miss Elaine on our board, but we are very excited to work with Dan and have some fresh ideas, and we're very, very excited. So can't wait to welcome you at the next meeting.
So, I was going to get involved in the last one, but I thought maybe it was just a little premature
Sure,
since we
sure.
hadn't been to the meeting yet.
Sure. So we're very excited, and as you guys know, we have quite a few new board members. So, you know, 21 is gonna bring some great things, I know. So I just wanted to kind of go over the request that I had submitted. We did ask for a few $1,000s more this year, and that is, of course, pretty much primarily related to COVID, as I'm sure everyone else has said, you know, during their presentation. We are anticipating hopefully being able to open the doors to the senior center back to the public in 21. We did close down in March of 20. Although our doors to the building closed, our services have just grown rampant because we are dealing with the most vulnerable population. So our services have just skyrocketed over the last year. Primarily in the nutrition department, we're averaging about 3,200 meals a month now, and 80% of those are being delivered. So we're utilizing our transportation drivers because we are not seeing as many medical trips. We're utilizing our transportation drivers to deliver meals to our seniors that would typically come to the senior center for a meal. That serves a couple different purposes. It makes sure they're fed, and it also lets us still lay eyes on them to make sure they're okay, to make sure that they have everything they need. We have seen a huge decrease in a lot of our seniors that came to the center, unfortunately, for a number of reasons. The biggest is social isolation. You know, a lot of our seniors, they don't have the family members, they have no one else in the homes, and we are their family. So we have seen a decrease there in their health. We also asked for a little extra funding to help with the facility in anticipation of us reopening. It is going to take, we have one part-time maintenance person that cleans, that You know, you guys are fantastic to us and making sure the maintenance of the building is taken care of, but there are day-to-day things that we do need a maintenance person to do. When we do reopen our doors, it is going to be very crucial that the sanitizing happens as it should, that, you know, we make sure that we're following all the protocols. We decreased our local match for a vehicle. We want to make sure that every dollar we possibly can reinvest into our seniors and into our services, we do that. So when we apply for another vehicle this year, we are going to apply for a smaller vehicle, which lowers our match. And that way we can, those extra funds, we can put them directly back into the services so that our seniors continue to remain healthy and independent. And then we did increase by about $5,000 the assistance with the gaps. Like I said, our services have just skyrocketed, primarily because it's more expensive to provide the services in the home than it is at the center. So we have been creatively thinking over the last year, how can we provide as many services as we possibly can in the homes? So we've restructured some things. We've been able to utilize social media. Our seniors have become very knowledgeable of Facebook and how to do Facebook Live, which has been great. So we are trying to still have that one-on-one, but doing it safely. And then, of course, we have our local federal match for our resident program.
Is that a 100% 50/50 match? Is that what that is?
Yes. Does anyone have any questions?
Do you have a projected date to be able to get yourself back up and running?
We do not. We were hoping by the end of the first quarter, but that doesn't appear that that's going to happen. We're hoping with the vaccines and with as many people having it, so they have the antibodies. We are hoping at this point, by midsummer is what we're hoping and what we're anticipating. There is not a senior center in the state that's open. It's just not safe. We can't tell someone that's 80 years old that has Alzheimer's that they have to wear a mask. It's not practical, and we know that. And as much as we want to have them back in the building, so that we can have our regularly scheduled activities, it's just not safe for them at this point. So I've been working with Bill. I'm sure he sees my name come up on his phone, and it's not again. But he's been very, very helpful. He's provided a lot of information. He's walked us through, as our staff, we've had 2 staff members, myself and someone else, that had tested positive. So what do we do? How do we handle it? What's the safest measures for us to take? So he's been very, very accommodating and helpful for us.
I know that the health department went to I'll call them the senior towers, just for general term. And one senior tower, they arrived with their team of vaccinators, and only got about half the people. They declined the shot for whatever reason. Do you feel a need to get into that, to get information out to the seniors about getting the shot, so we don't have this continuous half population not wanting it or not knowing that they need it, or what the heck's going on?
Right, and that's a great question, and that's a great statement. A lot of our seniors that we're finding are interested in having it, they do not have transportation. So, being
Yeah, here
senior
they-
towers, they're coming to them.
They came to them.
Absolutely.
I mean, we expressly,
Yes.
hey, you got to get to the towers because you got these people, and then they only get half of them.
And a lot of our seniors are, a lot of the feedback we're getting, they're very concerned to get it because of underlying health issues. A lot of them have been misinformed as to what it would do. But a lot of our seniors are just kind of at a point where they just want things to be normal again.
Yeah.
And,
There's got to be some education
yes.
given to these people so they can choose the best route And if not, the senior, their caregiver, whoever, you know, if they got children or whatever, you know, to intercede for them or something, because, you know, only half of them, that's not what we want.
No, not at all, not at all. And we have been passing along the information that we receive. I do know a lot of seniors that are in their homes are interested in getting the vaccine. So we've been, you know, working with the state and, like I said, with Bill to make sure that they are definitely vaccinated, just because they're shut-ins.
Yeah.
So great point.
So have you created a opening plan, that, you know, has, you know, smaller groups or, you know, different time schedules to offset, or, I mean, have you guys came up with some type of plan, and if so, what did that look like?
We have, and then we've gone to Plan B and then Plan C, and I think we've been all the way through the alphabet. It's really hard to anticipate being able to reopen because the information to us changes on a regular basis. So one of the things we are looking at is alternating. We had quite a few seniors that would come 5 days a week, and as we reopen, that's just not going to be a possibility because at any given point, we could have had 65, 70 seniors in our building. And while it's a large building, that's still just too many, even to have in our dining rooms and things. So we are looking at rotating, you know, because we provide transportation for the majority of them, rotating the number of times that they can utilize our transportation to come to the center, offsetting days. We've looked at a floor plan on how we're going to arrange the tables and make sure that, you know, they stay where they're supposed to stay. But again, because things are ever changing, it's just, you know, right now we're just kind of looking at ideas and thinking about things.
Does seniors that have been vaccinated opposed to ones that have not, has their thought process of keeping those together and the others not, or, I mean, is there?
We haven't
Is
thought
that
of that. The problem is that it's a lot like kids in school. You know, you put them all together, they haven't seen their friends in almost a year. They're going to all want to congregate together. They're going to want to hug one another. They're going to want to, you know, be all lovey-dovey. And we're just looking at how can we avoid that from happening? What can we do? And we just don't have the staff to be able to police that kind of, you know, that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be a controlled number. That's going to be the easiest way to start out for our reopening plans.
Yeah, I was someplace, I forget where I was at, I was someplace, and I had to go up to a thing and it shot a temperature on my head or something.
We've looked at those too. I was actually at a basketball game in Virginia, and we had to have our temperature taken.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're looking at those.
It was probably a vineyard or something, I don't know, but I remember having to go up and lean into that thing.
Yeah, and you know, and then you begin to question the accuracy of that because my temperature was like 93 point something. So, you know, just looking at all avenues because our seniors are so vulnerable because they are so, we need to keep them safe.
Without a doubt.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Okay, thank you again.
Just want to point out the council, just a reminder, you do own the building at 217
Yes.
North High Street. And
We've
you
offered
have,
it, we've offered it for $1.
yes, you know, you can't go a budget year without offering to sell that to senior
Yes,
services.
and you know, our response is still the same. If Jack and his crew comes along with the building, then we can talk. But I do have to put a plug in for those guys. They are phenomenal. Gary has been great with getting us hooked up with some security things. So.
And the council's put quite a bit of capital money into that building, new roof, some
Siding.
HVAC.
HVAC,
Yes.
some, the siding, the front porch, all that iron work. So
And we were planning an open house, you know, as soon as the pandemic began. So we're very excited to be able to do that, even though it's a year later. You know, we definitely want to do a red carpet event and have everyone out to see it.
Yeah, if you haven't been out,
It's beautiful.
real
It is
well.
beautiful.
It's-
Yeah. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, well, we're just about right on schedule here. 3:15 for any applicants. I don't see the assessor in here for anything. Do you want to take a break or you want to continue on with Mr. Kersey's here?
I'm anxious to hear him.
Well, then, let's bring Mr. Kersey on up here and get him to
It's
present.
always a treat for Floyd.
Yes, it
The
is.
great and mighty Floyd Kersey.
Great to have you again this year, sir.
Well, thank you. I would like just to mention for a second that with Mr. Kern being here, I did actually participate in the first vaccine, had no problems. If you read Journal Junction, you would think the earth is falling in. But anyway, it went very well. I got there a couple hours ahead of time, went through the procedure. They come out and held the sign up, because everybody had all these questions, held the sign up that if you were number like 84, they had signs up like from 40 to 60, and then 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, somebody come out and hold up a sign up and say 60 to 80, and that type of thing. And if they're all right in line, and I went in, I said something to the lady, I said, I'm not complaining. I've been here a couple hours, I really appreciate what you're doing. And she said, well, the next time we'll have to worry about what happens to be this week. She said, you're scheduled here between 11 and 12 on Thursday of this week. So what I'm saying, you know, you hear all kinds of things, but I can give you a testimonial from my standpoint. It worked very well. No effects from the shot, and we'll see where the second one goes. But many times the health department, whoever else, usually what you all hear, I'm sure, is all my problems. I got a problem here, I got a problem there, and very seldom do you hear things are going well. But it worked very well in my case.
I went to the health department and I got my shot. Walked right in, you know, took my information, set me down, and 15 minutes, they called me back. And 15 minutes later, you know, you wait 15 minutes. Man,
See, I thought the health department had better security than that to let
Yeah,
you
well,
into.
I can get around that.
Oh, okay.
But it's like I say, it works very well. I'm sure it's been an issue that is on everybody's mind. And my situation would be a little different when I'm talking about the conservation district. We did send you the information back in, and I'm going to go through a little bit of that. But it's been a different year for us as a conservation district. Not so much me, but we do have younger people that were able to adapt to the anywhere from Zoom meeting, which we haven't had a regular district meeting, which we have once a month. We haven't had one of those in person, I guess, since probably July or August. So, but anyway, we've been able to function very well. The district has done well with the younger people that able to meet with the farmers and so forth. But it's been a challenge, but I think we've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's as far as getting things taken care of with respect to the district. But I am here as far as to go over some of the highlights. And whenever I say highlights, that doesn't mean that this is important, but this is not really important. So when I mention something, I have no problem with trying to explain myself if you have any questions on anything. But basically, I guess I'd like to start out with some good news. The conservation district, on the agricultural side of things, on the Chesapeake Bay drainage area, which we're a part of, we've been able to stay ahead of that and continue to stay ahead of their goals that they had set, that started, I think, in 2009, and by 2025, which is not far off. The standard keeps being raised, which means we need to lower the amount that we're putting into the water. So we've been able to stay ahead of that. And I think I'm saying we're to be commended as in the county and the district and everything. It's not an individual thing, but it's always nice when you can stay ahead of the game, because you hear about things when you get behind. We're all aware if you get behind, that's not a good place to be. So, but that's so far. That doesn't guarantee us for next year, but things seem to be working well. One of the programs that has worked well for us, and we have more input on it, is the Agriculture Enhancement Program. And that's funds that we receive through the state and the federal, as far as Chesapeake Bay program, to install a lot of the best management practices with respect to the farming community. When I say the farming community, that can be somebody that has a half acre or somebody that has 500 acres. So it's not, everything we do is done on an application process, a scoring process, so we don't handpick and say, well, this person gets it, this person don't. Everything is done through a scoring process whereby that if you can only fund, say if the scores run from say 77 down to 30, and you can only fund down to 40, you have a reason why these three people didn't get funded, and the names had nothing to do with it as to, trying to do the scoring aspect on it, so, but we do, a lot of the things, one thing that's really caught on here and around the country that's helped a lot is what they call a cover crop program, and that has worked very well. We finished that up this fall and had good participation in it. Then we also have what we call a heavy use area, and that can be anywhere from a place where maybe it's a loading area for an orchard, maybe it's just a heavy use equipment situation, maybe it's a heavy use where animals are concentrated, that we actually have programs that will help to fund a place that will help keep the place from getting as muddy and getting as much mud into the stream and onto the roads and so forth. So that's what the heavy use area side of it is. Another thing that's worked out pretty good and continuing to improve. There's always room to go work on more, but the stream bank fencing and divisional fencing. Stream bank fencing, years ago, there was nothing to think about. You just let your cattle or whatever water in the stream, do the business in the stream, and get all along downstream. But basically, we've made some progress on that, and people seem to still have interest in that and continue to pick up, I believe, a little bit of a snowball effect. That it's kind of one of those things, if your neighbor does something and it looks better, it puts a little bit of pressure on you to try to do a little bit better. So it's a slow moving process in a sense, because you like to see everybody just start here and just right on around the room. Everybody see, I'll do it. But same thing with the shots and so forth. Everybody doesn't fall in line just wait. You think they should, but anyway, that has been working good. Another project that we have is a roof runoff, and that's relatively new. But we do all this from getting a grant and then trying to expend the funds according to what the grants say. But that really has to do with, let's just say you have a barn or a shed or building that you have animals staying right outside of it, and it doesn't do much good, or it certainly creates a problem when the water runs off the roof, runs into the barnyard, and it builds up and runs on down and heads into the stream. So that's something we've tried to do and been successful on, getting people to put spouting on and then a downspout, and then take that downspout, run it out through the ground enough to where it can down on the grassy area to cut down on erosion and also pollution. So there's a lot of little things we do that did it make a lot of difference to Chesapeake Bay because you fix this building? No, but if you fix this building and keep on going, eventually it would have and does have a bearing on things. Another thing we've still been working on is the Back Creek protection plan. And as I've said before, fortunately, Back Creek has remained an unpolluted stream with respect to really what organisms can live in and so forth. And they still do checks on, because I live on Back Creek, that's not the point. But I talk to different people that come in and check on things. They talk about some of the structure that's in the creek and so forth, that it continues to be unpolluted as far as the species that can live in that water. And I hate to say it this way, but they tell me, as far as people come in there, that there's quite a difference between what can live in Back Creek and what lives in the Opacton Creek. And you know, we had something there that we'd like to try to keep, even though we try to work other places. I'm just saying that Back Creek has been able to maintain its, I'm going to say reputation, so to speak, as being a clean stream. Something else we did was in the Tuscarora Creek watershed, and everything that we do is based on the watershed, which all of them keep getting bigger so you get the Chesapeake Bay watershed. But a permeable paving or permeable surface project in the Tuscarora district, that it's about 5,000 feet, and really what that's for is to create kind of like a heavy use area type thing, where you can park on it, run over it and so forth, and not do damage, but not create an area where the water and so forth will bring to the ground. Another thing we do from a funding source, we have the equipment rental, and it's actually worked out pretty good. We have, I guess 3 no-till drills and a couple of Muir spreaders and a line spreader. And really, what the purpose is for that, we actually got some seed money from the state several years ago, but we've been able to increase our inventory a little bit and do a pretty good job by renting it out to an individual that maybe needs a piece of equipment for half a day or a day or 2 days, and you just can't justify buying a piece of equipment and using it for a day and let it set the rest of the year. So the equipment rentals have worked good. I think people appreciate it. It's like everything else, it's an issue comes up once in a while, whether the equipment is cleaned up the way it should have been or something like that. So that's something that's worked good. And then of course we continue, we don't know to what extent, but funds that we received from Chesapeake Bay of the Conservation Agency. And one of the big ones is Department of Environmental Protection, but that's one of the things that you send in a situation, apply from a grant standpoint, and they look at it and say, yes, we can fund that, or we can partially fund it, or we're not gonna fund it. So we're kind of one of those groups that we can't plan for years in advance, but then once we have something, we certainly try to use it for that intended purpose. So, like I said, I'm kind of rushing through things, still talking a good bit also, so I'll try to wrap things up here, but the district basically plans to continue doing what it's been doing as far as continuing all the programs that we have going on. We don't have anything to say, well, after this year, it won't no longer be available, or no longer be in effect. So we're trying to, if nothing else, I'm sure everybody else would too, but we'd like to get back to where we could have face-to-face meetings and meeting with landowners and so forth, because for one thing, from a landowner standpoint, if you get several people together talking about something, sometimes you can pick an idea up from somebody that you as a presenter said, well, oh, I hadn't thought about that, maybe we can do that. And it's always good when you have the landowner in a setting where there's more than one person or a number of people that you can bounce ideas off one another and actually get some people to buy into things. So we are looking forward to that time. When it comes, I don't know, but that's our goal, to get back to that. Just in closing, I'd like to say that the Conservation District's been here for a little over 80 years, and the reason I say that, a lot of what we do takes years before it even shows hardly any effect at all. So it's not something that we do and say, well, you'll see a big effect if you approve this in May. In August, you're going to see all these changes. So I'll just give you as an example. We've been involved in planting a lot of trees and so forth, but if you plant a small tree, or if you fence out a stream bank to keep livestock out of the stream, you may not notice the full effect of that for many years down the road, but you've got to start somewhere. So that's the area where we're trying to make an impact as best we can. But we believe that, you know, the investment we make today hopefully will be appreciated by those that come after us. And I'm just here saying that we do what we can with the funds we have, as in requesting funds from you and anybody else. We don't know till we have it, and then we act accordingly. But I do think that we try to be very responsible, and I'd be willing to try to answer any questions or any comments you might have.
Floyd, I want to start by thanking you for all your hard work. You know, you're obviously dedicated and a hard worker. Of course, wouldn't expect anything but that from a farmer. You know, I read an article a while back about algae blooms in lakes, and one of the things they were saying was that it was like the health of the streams and all was 56% of it was due to agriculture. But what you're telling us is that the Back Creek Valley is doing a better job with agriculture than the populated areas. So that's kind of just the opposite of what I was reading in that article, and maybe that's just due to good practices.
Well, I think there's several things, but it's always so much better when you take something that's not broken and try to keep it that way. And what they've done in so many places, and I'm talking about over the country, you know, this stream is terrible. So now we've got to try to bring it back to life. All at the same time, you're still feeding down the stream, you're still feeding the algae. So, I don't want to say we've been fortunate, but I guess there's been several things done in the correct way. And we try to keep chipping away at it to stay where you're at. But just because you have an unpolluted stream today or an area, it's awful hard. It's not that it can't be done, but they have what's called a 303D stream list. And once you get on that list, it's kind of like you're in trouble in the sense of trying to ever get off that list. And because of they keep checking, and it's just hard to clean something up. So I guess maybe we hit that area soon enough and have done enough that it's continued to stay, one of the cleaner streams in the area, if not the state. And I don't mean to say that braggingly. It's just sometimes if you have something, be fortunate that you have it, and then try to take care of it.
No, it makes total sense. Makes total sense. Well, the last thing you had on there was a possible partnership with Berkeley County Council to promote a rain barrel project in Berkeley County. What does a partnership with the council on rain barrels look like?
Well, I'll be glad to talk to anybody now or whenever, but we had a good way of getting rain barrels as far as the blue 55-gallon drums. At little or no cost to a source up in Pennsylvania, and I think that's still available. Our biggest cost is the adapter kit, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head. Don't know if you ever heard of the China tariff problem and so forth. Well, these kits were coming from China, and about a year ago they went from like $26 up to about $40, and then it was hard to get them. So really, what I would say, what I'd like to do in a dream world is just kind of have somewhat of a promotion, whether we could coordinate and have everything, and whether you all could do anything on a possible cost share or part of it or whatever. But to be truthful, unless things have changed, for probably somewhere between $35 and $40, we could provide somebody with a rain barrel and kit and everything. And it's just, but we don't have the funds on ourselves to do that, but whether it being kind of I'm just saying from the county standpoint, this is my dream world. From the county standpoint, we're trying to do something to stop a little bit of stormwater runoff. Plus, sometimes you plant that seed with people and they say, well, wait a minute, I can take that water and have a beautiful flower garden here, or I can take that and raise a few vegetables. Again, it's back to that slow motion. We're not going to be able to do a big thing, but that's really what I was thinking about, whether it be any funds, whether any funds that you consider could be designated for like that type of purpose, that we could have it really promoted, that just saying, Berkeley County Council Conservation District is having a rain barrel workshop. If you're a Berkeley County resident, you can get a barrel for this amount. Is what I was thinking. But you can't bring somebody in and use their name without making sure they're on board with it. But we've done it a few times with a couple smaller, from the city of Martinsburg to Harpers Ferry. I believe we may have done one in Shepherdstown, but basically on a small scale. But that's really what I was thinking along those lines, to try to just have a workshop, maybe a demonstration, supposed to tell you what that rain barrel could do for you if you do decide to want it, and have it, that's really what I was thinking.
Maybe some kind of grant or something that would be.
Well, you would think, and as you look at the list, a lot of what the Conservation District does plays into the wheelhouse of our MS4 requirements. As far as, Chesapeake Bay, the runoff and the cover crops and things like that. These are all things that fall under the reporting requirements for MS4.
And the stream cleanups.
And stream cleanup. You would think that there may be some funding available through the Stormwater District to promote that.
Right.
Only because it does play into our MS4 application.
And it may be something the Stormwater District applies for a grant, but a certain percentage of that money goes towards something like the rain barrel thing.
Yeah, I really think the rain barrel, and that's been a pet peeve of mine for about 10 years, but I'm just saying, because it's able to get it and it worked pretty good, I've talked to different people who've utilized it and so forth, but I really think it is something that has a broad application, but it also has the appearance that you're trying to do something instead of standing there, and I'm not being smart, but standing there like, well, if it rains, it rains, you know, at least you're not gonna solve everything, but again, it's another baby step in a direction, hopefully, that say, well, you know, yes, we did put 200 barrels out, and I'm just going off the top of my head, but I think the state agriculture department had some information on it, that they said if you put out a rain barrel out, there was a date on it, I'm gonna say April 1st, and take it down November the 1st, that the average rain barrel usage will collect 1,300 gallons of water because you use it down, build up, use it down, and so forth. And that was the statistic that they had. It's not, you're not just putting out a 55-gallon rain barrel. You actually say can consume and utilize 1,300 gallons of water in the course of the year. Now, you know, if you put up 2 barrels and all that, I'm just saying that there is a possibility that.
No, I can see where it applies to when you talk about stormwater management, because one of the stormwater management issues is to retain the first inch of water that comes off. So if you calculate the first inch of water of the roof on your house, the footprint basically of your house, and you can contain a portion of that, that should take care of a portion of what you're gonna do with a small berm or something like that, that you would have to do to retain that water. So, no, it makes a lot of sense.
I think that's a good possibility, and like I say, and then you can always run with that, because certainly if you hook up one barrel, you could actually hook another rain barrel to it and so forth. But there is some possibility, but I just had that on there. It's not, I didn't highlight it, but it is something that we continue to work on. And I think that, it's amazing sometimes about like planting a seed. One seed will grow pretty good, the next time you plant it the same way, don't really do much. So we're willing to try to work, whoever it be, whether it be the council or, you know, the stormwater management people or what, to if we could work together on it. I think we have a pretty good source, I believe, and I don't think it's changed, it's fires and everything, but in order to get a good supply of the rain barrels.
No, it makes total sense.
And what we've been getting, that's, you know, mention it, because it's actually food grade materials in the rain barrel, not, you know, Roundup or something. All the barrels we get always have, it may have had Arizona tea or whatever. The worst it's gonna be is a little sticky if it is just a little bit at the bottom of it. So we've been very cautious on that to make sure that it's not something that's, you're gonna get and create more problems because of the rain barrels that you're using.
I see with your seed sale possibility for this year. I know last year during the pandemic, a lot of people started growing things that have never grown anything in their entire life. And I think that's really good. Some people are trying to become more self-sufficient.
Yeah,
Not
and
dependent
actually
on-
the rain barrels kind of tie into that. If a person has a little bit of something, because I'm fortunate, but people have water softener on public water, the chlorine and the salt is in your, you know, doesn't bode very well for your plants. So it would actually tie in, you know, but yes, that's something that's different this year, because last year we had quite the chore trying to get the tree orders. We had the orders started, we got the orders, and then we couldn't do anything. We was able to finally pull it off at the end of May and was relatively successful. But like I say, this one is things you kind of have to adjust and we'll see where it goes. But yes, I really do think, and you know, people, you know, you're kind of proud when you show somebody their neighbor their flowers or their vegetables or something they've grown, and there has been a change in that respect, yes.
Thank you all. Thank you for your work.
Yes, indeed. Thanks you.
Thank you. And like I say, if there is anything we can work with you, we're located at the same spot, and you know, if something comes up on the rain barrels, have any other questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, that includes the budget presentations. We're at 3:45, so no applicants. Doesn't look like. Mr. Barnhart, we're almost to your motion, so.
Well, Gotta wait till 4 o'clock.
We have to finish.
Stay till 4? Okay.
Yep. You gotta
Well,
be
we
here
will
until
just-
4 o'clock though.
We'll just take a break. Okay, we're back in session and no other business to conduct. Mr. Barnhart,
Mr. President, I move to recess.
we are in recess.